course, for those of you who keep up with the times, you know that today is the open house. It is our second open house of the year. We will continue to do this throughout the year. Every first Saturday, every second Saturday, because this is the second Saturday. I knew that. I'm paying attention to life. So this is your co-host, Big Mama Ama. I am joined on the radio by Mr. Roberto Alejandro. I'm sorry, I have a thing. I have to pronounce it properly. Okay.
You got it right.
All right, good. So Roberto is a reporter and publisher for RA on Background. Is that the name of it? Did I get that right?
It's called onbackground.com.
Okay, onbackground.com. So what are the kinds of stories that you look into and report on?
So the basic idea behind the website is to document the social conditions in the poorest neighborhoods here in Baltimore City.
Wow.
And then use that coverage to mediate analysis of politics and policy. So oftentimes this is a city where we talk a lot about the poor.
Yes.
We talk an awful lot about the poor.
Yes, we do.
We rarely talk to the poor.
Isn't that amazing?
And so interestingly enough, a lot of the policies we develop to address the social conditions in these neighborhoods fall flat on their face.
Amen.
And so, to give an example of the sort of thing I look at, take something like YouthWorks. Nothing wrong with YouthWorks, great program when we decide to fund it. The problem is, if you talk to people who are actively involved in things like selling drugs, you hear a lot of stories of kids as young as 9, 10, 11,
right,
who have an addicted parent. They have younger brothers and sisters that need to get fed. The parents not taking care of those things. So they're suddenly the head of the household.
Right.
Kids younger than double digits are the head of the household. That kid can't go get a YouthWorks job, right? They're not old enough to get one. And even if they could get a YouthWorks job, they can't get a part-time summer job. That's not what they need, And so YouthWorks is great, but the kids who end up on a corner and eventually end up with a gun in their waist are hitting that corner before they're even old enough to apply for YouthWorks.
Right.
So what policies are we aiming at those children living that circumstance? Because if we're serious about our public safety issues, then we have to look at poverty in the face and have a realistic picture of what that looks like.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that's basically what the idea is behind the website. Okay.
When did you start this?
So I created the website a little bit over a year ago, about 1.25 years at this point.
Okay.
And at the time I was writing largely for the Afro-American newspapers here in Baltimore City. And so it first kind of started as a blog, just a place to put all the extra reporting that you inevitably dig up that never makes it into the 500 word
that's
story.
An interesting thing. I'll put a pin in it.
Yeah, exactly. That was brilliant, but it doesn't fit this narrative arc, so I can't throw it in. And then over time, it kind of morphed. And at this point, it's my full-time project. It's been my full-time project since January. Because what I've encountered in other media institutions are too many limitations in the way that we tell our stories, especially when it comes to issues related to poor people. And a lot of times we want to mediate the experiences and the perspectives of the poor through values that really don't fit the context, right? It's easy to say, we need to talk about the positive when you're relatively comfortable, right? Even if you're living a sort of middle-class existence, it's easy to say that. It's a lot easier to say that than when you're a 9-year-old and, your drug-addicted parent can't take care of you and you're the one responsible for getting your younger brother or sister on the bus every day.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to talk some more in just a few seconds. We're going to take a break, pay some bills. We'll be right back. Don't forget, today's the open house. We're on air until 5 o'clock. The doors to the building are open, 110 East Lexington Street. Come on down, meet us, meet our interviewees, interviewers, and get some good food, because food's going to be here very soon. We're have a little bubbly. It's very nice soiree. Come on by. We'll see you soon. This is the Artist Exchange Radio Show on BExposedRadio.com.
Are you thinking about getting your GED diploma? Well, here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a number of pep talks that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You know that feeling? People look at you and don't believe in you.
You want some gentle encouragement. Then you're on your way to your GED diploma and a better life.
But I know they're probably just a little bit nervous.
You can find it in yourself to take that first step.
You can improve your future. You can do this. I know you can.
You need to start pushing yourself.
Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life.
Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need to get your GED diploma, we've got a pep talk that's right for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and find free GED classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education, brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Everybody, it's Monty, the executive producer here at BeExposedRadio.com, and I'm here to talk about my show. I know, how selfish, right? Talk Lately with me, Monty, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So what do we talk about on this show? I can tell you this. There has never been a show that I have gotten completely through the full agenda because our topics, our conversations are just that damn good. I cover politics, gossip, entertainment, and hey, I love a good panel discussion. Hey, get a group of people in here and let us debate it out. That is the best thing in the world. Not to mention, I take calls and texts, and I'll debate with you too. So why don't you get involved and be heard? What's that old adage? Closed mouths don't get fed. That says it all. So join me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. right here on BeExposedRadio.com. Call me at 410-702-5657. You can text at 443-642-9403. And don't forget to be heard and vote in our weekly poll right on the website.
This is the mother of truth, Baltimore's own magical Negro, your thug unicorn.
Are you thinking about getting your GED diploma? Well, here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a number of pep talks that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You know that feeling? People look at you and don't believe in you.
You want some gentle encouragement.
Then you're on your way to your GED diploma and a better life.
But I know they're probably just a little bit nervous.
You can find it in yourself to take that first step.
You can improve your future. You can do this. I know you can.
You need to start pushing yourself.
Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life.
Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need to get your GED diploma, we've got a pep talk that's right for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and find free GED classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education, brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome to our Saturday broadcast of the Artist Exchange Radio Show on BeExposedRadio.com. Don't forget, this is May 14th. It's our open house. We are on air until 5 o'clock. We'll be live here at the studio until then. You are welcome to come down and join us for our open house. There'll be food, there'll be people, networking, mingling, bubbly. It's a very nice soiree. So I'm in the studio now, and I am interviewing Mr. Roberto Alejandro. I didn't want to mess that last part because, anyway. So before we went to break, Roberto was telling us about On Background, which is his website that he started as kind of a side project to what his main job as a reporter was. So you were working for the Afro, you were collecting information, and then you found yourself limited in the way that the information could be expressed and in what information could be expressed also?
Yeah, I think absolutely both. Obviously, especially when you're working at a weekly newspaper, There are space limitations. So right off the bat, a lot of the information you collect is not going to make it into the story. Now, there's some of that information that, who cares? But sometimes, especially when in a place like Baltimore, you come across some really interesting conversations and perspectives. Mm-hmm. And for nobody to ever see any of that is a real tragedy. And, I think, unfortunately, the boundaries of traditional journalism require you to sort of frame things in a way that doesn't allow for a ton of creativity and a lot of sort of digression, let's say. Mm-hmm. Even when those things are still sort of thematically related, you still have to kind of stick to the script, have a sort of simple narrative arc. And then if you're working at a smaller operation like the Afro, you don't have a lot of space to say it in. Right. And
so what have you decided is the solution?
And so for, this website to me is kind of the answer to some of those problems. Mm-hmm. And also, in traditional journalism, if you go out and say you interview someone, who's working on a corner. And they might have certain type of vocabulary that they use to express themselves. That's not getting in the paper.
No, it's not.
Right? But in light of the conditions that person is living, those actually might be the only words that are appropriate in that context. And so, what the website allows me to do is not to be shy about what the reality of poverty is here in Baltimore City. I don't have to sugarcoat it. And more importantly, I don't have to tell you myself. I don't have to write it. You can listen to the recordings I've made talking to guys who are actively selling drugs on a corner right now and who are explaining why they're there that day.
And using their own words and their own language.
Using their own words and their own voice. And so a big part of the project is to make sure that you're not co-opting or becoming the voice of these communities, but that you're amplifying the voice of those communities themselves. Because, really, when, for me, this project started to turn was after the events of April 2015. Because we all said nobody's listening to these communities. They're not being heard. Well, if you won't play an interview on TV that has curses in it, they're never going to be heard.
Right.
And if we're serious about hearing these communities, I think you have to meet them on their terms. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny because as an actor, you deal with pieces that are very old and have a very stylized language or a very specific kind of speech attached to them. And the older it is, probably the more offensive it is to those of us who are of this generation.
Sure, yeah.
But as an actor, you can't be afraid of that because part of it is representing what actually is happening in the world. That's our job.
Yeah.
We are the literal representation of life when we are on stage performing. So I have a profound respect for the words that are actually chosen. On top of that, I'm a huge fan of poets, and poets are very specific about the words that they choose. It allows for a certain cadence and a certain emotion to be evoked when you are reading and or hearing them speak. So to allow these people the opportunity to say exactly what they want to say, how they want to say it is amazing.
Like you said with poetry, right? Any vocabulary and any sort of poetic exercise is an exercise in both the limitations and the possibility of language. And when we cut certain possibilities off, then we're cutting off from ourselves the ability to sort of experience truths that we might not otherwise be in touch with on a regular basis, or that we might have never thought ourselves, because in our social location, those things just wouldn't enter our minds. And so why would we cut off a branch of knowledge just because we say those aren't words we use in this context? Well, they don't live in that context.
Right.
They use words that fit their reality. And so another part of what I try to do with the website is incorporate hip hop into the storytelling, into the news coverage, and also into just the methodology of journalism altogether, right? Hip hop has always been a medium for the voiceless to be heard.
Amen.
And so that's in the same vein. On Background wants to be something similar.
Okay. I have to say, one of the things that I love about hip hop is its limitless applications. You can take it anywhere and really teach somebody something. It is an incredible tool for teaching, especially about a culture. And when you are trying to, we were on the break talking about trying to get someone to understand a specific person's experience when you have all these people who have only walked and gone to one block in all their life. And they're like, hey, you over there who lives 7 blocks away, I know how to fix your problems and I'm going to fix them this way, and this way. Well, first of all, those first 3 things I don't even need. So, you know, what are you really talking about? So how do you begin to build that bridge? How do you begin to really make lines of actual communication effective, actual communication? So I see that that's kind of that's where you're headed with what you're doing. Tell us about the website and what your plans are with it for this next year, because you've just started. We're almost halfway through. So I'm sure you're all excited about what's happening. Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, the plan is just to continue to build the content that I've already been producing for a little while now. And, you know, just try to get it in front of more people, you know, because I do think that, especially with the sort of hip hop element involved in the journalism, it can be a real bridge, right? Because say African Americans who today are in their 50s grew up on hip hop. You know, it took probably white folks a little bit longer to catch on, but you know, folks in like their late 30s probably grew up with a fair amount of hip hop already. You know, like so the generations that are about to be making or already making decisions grew up on hip hop. I think the problem is that for those people who didn't also grow up in inner city environments, hip hop was always kind of like entertainment. Right, you listen to Mobb Deep, the same way you watch The Terminator.
Yes,
it's like, oh man, Arnold. But the difference is the Terminator is a complete work of fiction.
Yes,
there are no future robots running around California.
Hip hop is a truth,
and so when we treat hip hop like that, we're actually insulting. I think the persons who are trying to reveal a truth to us that needs to be addressed. Right, hip hop should be an imperative, and I think in this, but on the other end, we have the problem in our inner city communities that oftentimes the communities don't engage politically, which is part of why they get left out of the conversation as well. And, you know, what I'm hoping is that by incorporating hip hop, those people who are, you know, now decision makers will be pulled in, and those persons who traditionally don't engage in these processes also get pulled in. And that's where the, you know, the tagline is hip hop, poverty, and policy. You know, we talk about all those things. And, you know, I want that kid I'm interviewing on the corner to listen to my political interviews just as much as I want the politicians I interview listening to the interview with the kid on the corner.
Right. Wow. I really, really like this concept. I'm, as a person as an actor, first of all, language is always huge. It's paramount. It's how we begin to communicate when we stop and take time to understand each other. And with dealing with people who walk in different worlds, who live in different places, both mentally and spiritually, right? So I've never had to, you know, at 10 years old, I was going to summer camps all summer because my parents could afford to send me away for 6 weeks. You know, there are people who that is something that they've only ever seen in a movie. That's not real life, right? So how do you get these people to begin to understand each other? And I absolutely believe that hip hop has a language that is both auditory and visual that will really, really help bring understanding, that can bring perspective, but you have to listen and actually take in the information, not just, you know, listening to the beat and the way and the, you know, the timing of the music. I like all of this. This is good. No, yes, it is, but there's more to it. There are layers. And as with any art, as with anything that someone who is an artist puts forth. Okay, we got 4 more minutes. I want to hear a little bit more about you. So when did you start writing? When did you realize that this is what life was going to be for you?
You know, to be honest, it wasn't really planned out. You know, when I moved to Baltimore, it was a little over 2 years ago. I'd been unemployed for 8 months.
Wow.
And I just left a resume anywhere where some skill or experience of mine might apply, you know, and I've done a lot of random things in my life. I've been a bus driver. I've, you know, worked in legal contexts. I've worked in tax law. I've worked in as a book preservationist. I've been a handyman. You know, there's nothing I'm unwilling to do if, you know, I have bills to pay, which is generally always.
Amen. Yay, adulting.
And, you know, the Afro, I had left a resume at the Afro just thinking maybe on occasion they'll need an extra copy editor as they're putting the paper together, and it'll just put a few dollars in my pocket as I try to figure out what my life is going to look like.
Right.
And they called back, or they sent me an email. They're like, "Are you still interested in writing?" And I was like, "Yes,
sure,
I guess." But I quickly fell in love with journalism, and I realized that this is much more where probably my calling is. I mean, I've been writing really my whole life, like from when they taught me to map out an essay in 2nd grade. I've been writing, and I've done different types of writing, a lot of academic writing, some comedy writing. And now journalism, and that was my path into this.
Okay.
And increasingly, I haven't been doing as much writing lately because I've been working more in audio, and we're starting to develop the video side as well. But there's definitely a lot to be said for print.
Okay.
I think journalism, even though it's kind of fading.
Hi, Monty, I'm sorry. I have to forget not to put the T. It's so hard. Okay, anyway. So what brought you to Baltimore?
My fiance was living in DC and I was living in Brooklyn.
Oh.
And we were trying to find a place that was affordable and closer to where she needed to be in DC. And I had a friend here in the city and he spoke really highly of it. And he's worked in DC. He's like, the commute's not too bad. And so, we ended up here largely for the cost of living.
All right. Yay, Baltimore and the cost of living. Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of that.
Me too.
So you've been here for how long?
A little over 2 years.
A little over 2 years. Have you fallen in love with Charm City yet?
I have. That didn't take very long.
Oh,
especially
good.
Working in the newspaper, because working in the newspaper and then, I don't have a car here. So I walk everywhere. I walk or I, ride the bus. And, I talk to people everywhere I go.
It's hard not to love Baltimore when you ride the bus.
And so when you're, but when you get to experience the city like that,
right?
I think you fall in love with it very quickly.
I definitely fell in love with Baltimore riding the buses. As a transplant myself, it was watching the Baltimoreans interact with each other and just the love that they can show for each other and the respect and, some of the knowledge that runs around the city is incredible. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. This is the Artist Exchange Radio Show on BeExposedRadio.com. Don't forget, today is our open house, 110 East Lexington Street. We will be on air until 5 o'clock live. And then after that, we'll be at the Rumba Tropical Bar having some more drinks and some food. And come on down, enjoy us at the after party if you can't make it to the open house. This is Big Mama Ama, and we'll be right back.
Join the club that gives you stuff.
Hey, thanks.
Radio Loyalty.
Here's how it works.
Just click on the Radio Loyalty banner right now and sign up. Then you keep on listening like you already do. But now you earn points. Those points add up, and you can trade them in for stuff in the Radio Loyalty store. Earn more points by sharing your station with friends on Facebook and Twitter, answering surveys, and by using the apps in the New Players App Store. Pretty simple, right?
Radio Loyalty.
Click that banner to join now.
Check out this flashback on Gangsta Goddess Radio Show.
You are true to yourself. You walk that and you walk it with your head up because yes, I have this gangster in me. I can do this. I will persevere. I will keep moving. We have Black women who are dealing with mental issues. We have Black women who are dealing with health issues. We have Black women who are dealing with self-esteem issues. Well, we have Black women who are just dealing with issues, child. So as you try to figure out why am I here? What's my purpose? And that can bring you down. And you have to find that, oh no, you gotta be gangster enough to say, oh no, boo-boo, not today. You will not get me. I am here. I can take a punch and keep it moving. But I can also give one. Don't get it twisted. And then go in and fix my makeup. Get the lip gloss popping, put the wrap on, and keep it moving. So that is that gangster goddess. That's where I find the balance. So you have to know when to bring it out, each side, because I can give it to you either way, because I am mother of truth. You're the unicorn, you're magical Negro, you're gangster goddess, and I am here. So thank you so much for your question. Feel free to text us again, and the number is 443-642-9403. But I hope we answered that for you.
For this and more, be sure to tune in to Gangsta Goddess Radio Show every Tuesday from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, right here on BeExposedRadio.com.
You're struggling with your mortgage. You think about it. You don't do anything but think about it.
What are we going to do if we lose the house? Where are we going to go?
At work.
I can't let anybody find out. I'm so embarrassed.
At dinner.
How can I tell the kids? It's going to wreck their lives.
And at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get through this. What's going to happen to us?
It's time to stop thinking. It's time to start dialing. Call 1-888-995-HOPE for a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options.
I'm all alone.
No, you're not. We've helped over 1 million homeowners, and we want to help you. And now there are more ways to help. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Check out this flashback from the Artist Exchange radio show. I'll let you speak on it. You know it better than I do.
All right, thank you, Nate. So the Say It Loud Film Festival is happening on April 16th, which is next Saturday from noon to 10 p.m. at nighttime. And we have partnered up with the No Boundaries Coalition. So I got to tell you the address real quick. It's 1947 Pennsylvania Avenue, which is where the Jubilee Arts Center is located. So we've partnered up with the No Boundaries Coalition, and the No Boundaries Coalition hosts an annual block party right there where we're going to be having the film festival.
Okay.
This is the 9th annual Boundary Block Party, and they are providing shuttle buses to take people to the voting booths because the Maryland primaries open on that same April 16th date that we're having the film festival and the block party. So we're going to be partnering up and promoting each other, and there's going to be these shuttle buses taking people to the voting booths to go vote, and we're going to have live music, live poetry, live dancing from a local high school, and then films start at 7 p.m. at nighttime. So that's basically what's going on for the Say It Loud Film Festival in West Baltimore.
Check out this flashback of the Artist Exchange radio show on BeExposedRadio.com.
So we're going to get a little bit into the album with Miss Amira and learn the basis of it, the Banji soul of it all. So let us know, first of all, what is Banji soul?
Banji soul is basically just real. It's real soul. It's real. It's not cut down. It's not watered down. It's, how as hot as it came off of my mind and my heart. That's what it is. And a lot of the times I get a little tangy, banji, ratchet, whatever, how you like to put it, classify it. But I like to say banji, because I'm classy.
Banji is a little classy.
It's a little classy. That's got your pinky up. You got your pinky up with that.
Okay, we got to keep the bees, the bougie, the banji.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's created her own lane, Banji Soul. So let us know how that is covered in the album that released on the 9th of this month, right?
Yes. Well, I did it to a number of industry tracks, including like the Beatles come together, and I did a Lindsay Lohan joint. You remember the Confessions of a Broken Heart?
Okay.
And a lot of stuff I aimed to like change the theme that was originated, or just to. It was my therapy.
Okay.
It was my therapy.
So that's why this is a mixtape.
Yes.
Okay, because you did a lot of remakes. Okay, I got you. The Artist Exchange radio show every Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Every Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back. This is Big Mama Ama on the Artist Exchange Radio Show on BeExposedRadio.com. Guess what, guys? The front doors are open. It's our open house. Come on by and see us. 110 East Lexington Street. We'll be in the studio live until 5 o'clock. And then at 5, we are shutting it down and hop, skipping, and jumping right up to the Rumba Tropical Grill at Lexington and Charles. I couldn't tell you the exact address. I'm not that good. But we'll be there until...
Yeah, it's the middle of the block, south side of the street.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, see, city liver. There you go. That's how you know he's been adapted. So you are originally from Brooklyn.
Well, I'm originally from Puerto Rico.
Oh,
yeah, I grew up
Puerto Rico.
I grew up mostly in Massachusetts from about 8 years old on. I was there through college, and then I've kind of hopped around. I was in Hartford, Connecticut, then New York City. Then I lived abroad for a little bit. Then DC, then back to Brooklyn.
Wow. What took you all these places?
Mostly school. I just kind of stayed in school for a very long time.
I'm not mad at that. You got to travel the world and learn.
With my life. Yeah. No, I mean, I certainly learned a lot, but that journey is over. And now I'm, just trying to focus on what the rest of my life will look like.
Okay. What did you study in school?
A little bit of everything. I did a BA in political science and history. After that, I studied law. Then I did a master's degree in church history and then a PhD in religion and theology.
Oh, my goodness.
So
You wrote a lot of papers.
I've written a lot of papers in my life. Yeah.
That's aside from a wealth of knowledge, there's one thing you can always know about someone who has 2 or 3 degrees. They can write the hell out of a paper.
Yeah. You kind of have to.
What's your favorite style of writing?
I suppose especially because so much of my work has been in the academic realm. Analytical writing is probably what's most in my wheelhouse.
Okay. So is that what led you from, after doing the interviews for the Afro, collecting all this information, is that what led you to say, okay, the analyzation of what you're looking at, what you're reporting on, the people you're talking to, it's like, okay, these things are starting to click and make some connections in my mind. How can I help other people make these same connections?
Well, I think part of it is, especially in my doctoral work, I was doing a post-colonial critique of early Christian thought. And a lot of what post-colonial theory is about is not about resisting colonization, but about resisting the way we construct norms through language. And so, the way we sort of take certain ideas or values and pretend that they're objective or correct, as opposed to simply culturally located in a particular place. And so, one of the issues when you do kind of mainstream or traditional journalism is you're inevitably endorsing and reinscribing norms and values that might not be yours. And especially when you're a person of color, if you haven't really thought about the way the experience of Blackness needs to make you think, for example, traditional Western norms about what it means to be human, then you haven't really learned the requisite lessons. And then inevitably any project that you do that you claim to be a sort of minority project isn't really. It's really just a white project in minority face, whatever that might be, whether it's Black, Latino,
right,
whatever it is. And obviously just because of the way our history has unfolded, we tend to be educated in a Western paradigm, certainly, on this side of the globe.
Absolutely.
And, that's not to say that there isn't an incredible critical apparatus present in Western thought, because the truth is, most post-colonial theory comes out of Indian scholars who were educated in the British system. And so they're using European philosophy to craft their own sort of way of deconstructing European domination.
Right.
And in that way, it's a lot like hip hop, right? Because hip hop is a taking of things that you wouldn't traditionally use for X and using it for X, right?
Amen.
You turn a turntable into an instrument. And so that energy that is in post-colonial thought too. And that's kind of the energy that runs through, say from my academic career into this project now.
Okay. That's pretty profound. One of my favorite moments in my life, I spent a week at Juilliard in my junior year, and they took us to an off-Broadway show.
Okay.
It was designed specifically to boost minority enrollment or minority application here in the States, because they have an issue with getting minorities from this country to apply. So what the play they took us to was play that was about Latin heritage, and they talked about, they did it was a musical, so it was a medley of several different songs. And the way that they did it was they sang, songs that a lot of Americans knew in English, and then sang the Spanish version, and then talked about the incredibly different explanations for the translations. It's like, okay, this is what the English song says, this is what the Spanish song says, and this is what this actual phrase means. Doesn't really translate that all that well. So in understanding, taking the time, because this is one of the things I think Americans, if you will, have a problem with, is stopping to really take the time to hear someone and what they are actually trying to tell you, as opposed to what you hear them saying. So thank you for being standing in the gap. That's awesome. So as a Puerto Rican American, and being a journalist in the political realm. Let me ask you a few questions about Puerto Rico and even nations like Guam and the American Virgin Islands, all these places that are American territories, but don't really get a lot of say in what happens. Is there a way to begin to address those issues? What do you have for me on that?
I mean, certainly the challenge for a place like Puerto Rico is that the persons who have the authority to make decisions about its fate are generally not persons who have to listen to anybody from Puerto Rico. And so because of what is really ultimately still a colonial relationship, we are a colonial property of the United States. You have situations like what we have now with the island, where because Puerto Rico is limited by federal law, which it has no direct say in, Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico do not vote for president,
right?
And they don't pay federal taxes. That's a trade-off. But what the island has effectively given away is autonomy,
right?
And even if you don't want autonomy, if you don't think it should be independent, it's given away a seat at the table,
right?
And so now you have Republicans in Congress trying to figure out whether or not they're going to allow Puerto Rico to restructure its debt, or how that'll look like, or whether it'll be granted the ability to enter bankruptcy. But Puerto Ricans themselves have no say, right? I mean, Puerto Ricans have held 1 million votes on what the status of the island should be.
Right.
The problem is Congress is under no...
It's like, oh, did you do that? Oh, that was cute.
Congress
Thanks,
doesn't need to listen to any of that. They have no authority
these
over
are your
what
little
the Congress
suggestions.
does. Yeah.
We're going to put them right over here. We'll look at those later.
It's like the suggestion box that nobody looks at, right? And so that's what colony is, right? I think if you're an African American living in America in a poor, largely Black community, which will largely only exist because of our history of segregation, right? I mean, and that's one of the challenges, I think, in a lot of minority communities. People are like, oh, you need to come together as a community. It's like, we didn't come together in the first place. You put us here and then you called us a community. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So especially when you have these discourses about like Black on Black crime, it's, through racism, we imposed an identity, and then we demand that you should have some loyalty to the identity.
Right.
It's like, well, but I'm just Mike. You call me Black.
Right.
To me, and that guy, he's Ted, and Ted's a jerk.
Don't loop me in with Ted.
And so we have to be aware of how our power structures dictate a lot of what we think of as identity. But going back to Puerto Rico, it's difficult, and I think it doesn't help that the persons who might be able to put pressure are really American citizens, right? Like if a lot of American citizens rose up and said, Congress, you need to get serious about this problem, but like the South Bronx can't do it by itself. You know what I'm saying? So that's really probably what it would take.
I think one of the things that I find the most disappointing about America and the information age that we currently live in right now is how limited how little we actually know, how little we actually pay attention. In my house, we watched The Daily Show. So Trevor Noah is a huge, like if I could erect a shrine and it not be weird, I would, right? But anyway, so in watching this new season with him, he is, and this is what I think was a very smart thing that Jon Stewart did in hiring him, is he's now opening up our world, opening us up to the world and all the crazy that goes on everywhere, not just here. I was watching the latest episode where he was talking about how it's finally like, all right, well, Trump's going to be the nominee now. Good luck with that. And he says, well, actually, let's take a look and see what's happening. And in 3 and 4 other places in the world, there are people who are coming to power who are very much Trump-esque.
Yeah.
They say whatever they want. They talk about whatever they want. They're not doing any actual work. They are just pandering to whoever's in front of them. They're offending people. And these are supposed to be world leaders. These are supposed to be our diplomats. And it's everywhere. So as I ask you, are we moving into a period where we're just going to have a bunch of crazy people in charge and then we'll come out of the flames of that?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the most problematic things about the Trump phenomenon here, right, is that America's not just some country.
Right.
Right. In a lot of ways, whether people like it or not, it is the country. But I think the phenomenon is playing out in very similar ways in that you generally have populations that have been undereducated, in no small part because their societies have been poorly managed by those in power. And so someone who can give voice to their frustration is appealing, and they're not necessarily, because society has failed them, they don't necessarily have the sophistication to realize that the policy ideas aren't workable or aren't effective.
They just sound
or would make you an
good.
international pariah and would destroy your economy worse than it already is. But it's kind of like, if you walk around Gilmore Homes, it can't get worse, right? Like like this is as bad as it gets. And so to tell a community that this person's idea would be terrible, it'll make things worse, it's like it's not going to get worse than this.
For who? For you?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kind of at bottom here, guys.
And so and that's one of the interesting dynamics. I mean, as much as there are a lot of problematic values amongst the persons who are bringing Trump to power in the Republican Party, there has to be some recognition that most of those persons have been poor for various generations. And yeah, there might be a fair amount of ignorance.
Right.
But we're all born ignorant.
Yes.
And so if our society fails to educate people, then they're going to lean on things like hatred and bitterness and jealousy.
Right.
Because when you're living those kind of challenges, that is the only currency you have.
Yes. When you are limited in what you are allowed to know, then you are limited in what you have access to. I absolutely believe this. I swear I will put my whole self behind the next candidate who says that they want to revamp the entire education system. That's the president that I am waiting for, the person who's focused on, well, listen, guys, we want America to continue to exist. We probably should educate these people who are going to be in charge in 30 years. But there are small areas where people are starting to focus on education in certain states. In fact, which is one of the beautiful things about the federal and the state system in this country. Some states are able to say, okay, you know what? I don't give a damn what Mississippi is doing. Yeah. we got some things we got to do. And if we have to disperse our people to take care of everything, then we will. So, I mean, I think that if you do your homework, you can learn a lot. Even in this country, the state you live in, the things that they're doing are not the same as the next state over. Look into what they're doing. Maybe they're doing something that works. Maybe they're doing something we can adapt, and then demand that from the people who are in charge of the place where you live.
No, absolutely. I think one of the big issues we have in American education is the over-reliance on standardized testing. Which, I mean, it strips the classroom of a lot of important things because you're always teaching to the test.
Yes. And the thing that is the scariest to me about that, and we're going to be leaving in just a second, is that all of those standardized testing comes from the same company, and that company is intent on staying in business, which means education is not its goal. Money is its goal.
Which is the goal of every company.
Right. Yeah. Which, puts education second. I don't really care if you're learning anything as long as I'm making money. That's what matters. That's what happened with all these with a generation of football players and basketball players who were graduated from high school and college with no education because they were making money. All right. This is the Artist Exchange Radio Show on BeExposedRadio.com. We're going to take a quick break. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
So, Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom.
I wanted to talk to you about something and... Oh, wait. Hold on. I just got a text. Oh, there's another one. Wow. Busy me. So, anyway...
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. My friends keep commenting on my comment. Oh, there's another one. So many comments on my comment.
Oh, I can't wait to watch TV tonight. Playoffs!
Hey, guys, check out my new video game. Wait. Mom, what? Huh?
What? Hold
What'd you say? Wait a second. Huh?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Check out this flashback on Gangsta Goddess radio show.
We know how you came about. We have write-ups and so forth. And the people that come after that, okay, yes, I inspired you, so acknowledge it.
Right.
When you do a, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, it's a little more difficult for the natural born raw artists. Okay? And the academic artists, they know a lot more than us natural born raw artists. So they could easily get in spots and galleries and newspapers and magazines and everything, where I'm not in the academic part